Good evening, folks. My name is Russ Wigginton. I have the honor of serving as the president here at the National Civil Rights Museum at the Lorraine Motel. We are honored that you are with us this evening. We appreciate you spending time at this place at this time on this day. I'm particularly excited about this conversation because economic empowerment, economic justice, that is the core reason why Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was here on April 3rd in 1968. It's also why he lost his life the following day. Economic justice, the importance and the dignity associated with labor and respect for labor, because he said all labor has dignity. What also makes me excited is we have a generation, dare I say the next generation of leaders who are driving this conversation. The work that we do here is certainly historical, but it's only going to be powerful and meaningful in the future if I can use the phrase, if our young folk today, our leaders of today, the people who are going to be on this stage, pick up the mantle, own it, and make it come to life in the second half, the second quarter of the 21st century, because that's where we are now. So I am particularly excited that this conversation is going to be driven by the people who are going to be a part of carrying the water, if you will, for this city and beyond. Now I'd like to bring up Jason and Justin to offer commentary. Thank you.
Well, we're going to try this again. We're going to act like we're in church because we're from Mississippi. And so hopefully we can get some response back. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
All right, we're alive. Good. All right. So again, good evening, everyone. My name is Jason Anderson, and this gentle giant standing beside me is Justin Crosby, Mississippi State Representative Justin Crosby. Let me get that right. It is truly an honor to stand tonight here before you at the National Civil Rights Museum as we continue this important conversation on economic justice. You know, the Dream Commission started about 5 years ago with two guys having what we call check conversations. And we called them check conversations because even though we have multiple degrees, we were trying to figure out how do we go from moving or living check to check to building generational wealth. And we're sure with everyone being rich in here that you all have never had that feeling or never had those conversations, but we did. So what started as two friends talking turned into community forums, and those forums turned into action. And that action has now helped connect over 2,000 Memphians to resources that changed their trajectory of life. And those resources, many of those are right here in the room. So again, to those leaders who are in our communities that have been connecting with us and allowing us to connect those individuals with you, we want to stop and say thank you. Thank you. That's really heavy to us because there's nothing that we do here alone. And so, again, everything takes community. So we want to say thank you. Thank you for not just being dreamers, but doers. People that believe that progress is possible. People who believe that opportunity should be accessible. People who believe, like Dr. King believed, that economic justice is not a Democratic issue or a Republican issue. It's an American issue.
Thank you, Jason. Again, to reiterate what he said, What was so impassionate and thoughtful to me about Dr. King was that what he believed in, what he dreamed for, didn't matter your race, your background, or your creed. It was about an opportunity for everyone to simply breathe in and breathe out. The Dream Commission started coming together and having conversations of how does everyone of every level have financial literacy, financial freedom. And we would bring people from all over the country and the region, oddly enough, into this very room. And so we're thankful to not only now just be a consumer of the Civil Rights Museum, but also a partner. We want to say thank you to the amazing staff here. And as we transition now to go into this discussion, I want to leave you with this thought. Ask yourself, are you dreaming as the doctor did? Or are you being okay with simply living in the nightmare? It's time for us to start dreaming again. Thank you.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. And before I bring up Takora to give us some important data and context setting for this conversation, I want to take a moment to thank, in particular, our sponsor for this evening, Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo has been a partner with the National Civil Rights Museum in our work. It's very important to us to work with organizations in the community who have shared values and offer their support and their expertise and their resources to help us do our work. So join me in thanking Wells Fargo. Takora.
All right, well, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I feel like they got it louder. I'm not going to settle for that. Can I get a louder good evening? Make sure everybody's there. We go. I hope everybody's doing well. It is so nice to see everybody's beautiful faces this evening. Me and my husband, I actually dragged my husband in this evening. We are going to the Grizzlies game tonight. Go Grizzlies. So keep them in your prayers that they win. I don't know. It's been a tanking season, but it's all good. So I just want to say it's a true honor to be here at the National Civil Rights Museum. I am more than happy to speak on what we're doing at the Greater Memphis Chamber. You know, as we're sitting here, I just think about this place and, you know, the progress that took us to get here. And I think it really touches base on that it takes just not, you know, hard work, but it takes intention. So tonight we're talking about economic justice, and we look at this through a data lens at the Greater Memphis Chamber. For us, if we can measure it, that means that we have the ability to change it. So behind every data point is a person, a family, and a real outcome. So either things are improving or they're not. And in Memphis, we're seeing two of those things occur at the same time. On one hand, we're seeing growth in our community, across our economy. We're attracting companies, and we're creating jobs. But at the same time, that growth is not reaching everybody in our community. On the other hand, those jobs, some of them are still not accessible. Some of them still are not paying very good wages. And then not everybody in the community is experiencing that progress. And that right there, that gap, is where the real work is. Economic justice lives there. At the Chamber, we've had to be very clear about what progress actually means. It's not just about job creation. It's about whether those jobs pay a living wage. And it's also not just about degrees and credentials. It's about whether people have the right skills to step into those jobs. And it's not just about growth overall. It's about who is included in that growth. Because people are being left out. Well, if people are being left out, then that means that we're not solving the problem. That's where Prosper Memphis 2030 comes in. We focus on 3 key areas. We look at advanced industry recruitment and growth in our region. We also look to create high-quality jobs and making sure that those roles include diverse talent. Thirdly, we want to get people trained in STEM credentials so they can be prepared to work in those high-quality jobs in our region. And when we look at the data, a few things stand out. At the Chamber, we set a goal to add 700 advanced industry companies to our economy, and we've already exceeded that. We also set a goal to create 50,000 high-quality jobs by 2030, and we are halfway there. At the same time, about half of those jobs are being held by diverse talent. Our last goal, we set a goal to reach 20,000 STEM credentials annually. And that is an area where we still have work to do. But we are seeing movement, the institutions like TCAT adding new programs, and others continuing to focus on STEM credentialing, along with our work around workforce readiness. So what does that mean? Well, first off, that means that we are a competitive region. We are attracting companies to our region. We are growing the economy. It also means that opportunity is here, but we still have a lot of work to do to make sure people can access that. And third, it means that we have to stay focused on connecting our workforce to that growth in a real way. So when people ask what economic justice looks like, this is it. It's not a concept. It's whether people can truly access opportunity. The goal is not just to bring in business. It's about making sure everything is connected, and that's what we do at the Chamber. We connect employers, educational institutions, workforce partners, and community organizations. Because if those systems are not aligned, the outcomes will not change. At the end of the day, it comes down to outcomes. What are we actually changing? Who is benefiting? And where do we need to still focus? That's what Prosper Memphis 2030 helps us do. Thank you.
My philosophy is very simple. When you see something that is not right, not fair, not just, say something, do something, get in trouble, good trouble, necessary trouble.
Absolutely necessary. The other thing is that America freed the slaves in 1863 through the Emancipation Proclamation of Abraham Lincoln, but gave the slaves no land or nothing in reality, and as a matter of fact, to get started on. At the same time, America was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that there was a willingness to give the white peasants from Europe an economic base. And yet it refused to give its black peasants from Africa, who came here involuntarily in chains and had worked free for 244 years, any kind of economic base. And so emancipation for the Negro was really freedom to hunger. It was freedom to the winds and rains of heaven. It was freedom without food to eat or land to cultivate, and therefore it was freedom and famine at the same time. And when white Americans tell the Negro to lift himself by his own bootstraps, they don't look over the legacy of slavery and segregation. I believe we ought to do all we can and seek to lift ourselves by our own bootstraps, but it's a cruel jest to say to a bootless man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps.
You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lie. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still like dust, I'll rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? Just because I walk as if I have oil wells pumping in my living room. Just like moons and like suns with the certainty of tides, just like hope springing high, still I rise. Did you want to see me broken? Bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries. Does my sassiness upset you? Don't take it so hard just because I laugh, as if I have gold mines digging in my own backyard. You can shoot me with your words, you can cut me with your lies, you can kill me with your hatefulness, but just like life, all right. Does my sexiness offend you? Oh. Does it come as a surprise that I dance? As if I have diamonds at the meeting of my thighs. Out of the huts of history's shame I rise. Up from a past rooted in pain I rise. A black ocean leaping and wide, welling and swelling and bearing in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear I rise. Into a daybreak miraculously clear I rise, bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the hope and the dream of the slave. And so, wow. There I go.
Evening, y'all. Can you hear me? You can hear me. Well, my name is Seth, and I am delighted to be here tonight. Really, welcome to all of you. Welcome to everyone that's tuning in on our live stream and YouTube. And we're a big crowd here. You can't see the whole crowd, but we've got a big crowd here, and we've got a big crowd online. And I just want to take one moment to also acknowledge we're not just where we are, which I'm going to say something about that in a moment, but it happens we're here on Good Friday. And it's not just a Good Friday, y'all. It's a great Friday. I know for a lot of people in this room, we're going to be celebrating Easter this weekend. I'm Jewish, and I'm in the midst of the Passover holiday, which means on Wednesday, this past Wednesday evening, we celebrated the story of Exodus. We celebrated the story of liberation and freedom. And as someone who shares that tradition and that story, it's particularly meaningful that I'm here tonight. It is a holiday that's shared by everybody, but the Friday night, the Sabbath of Passover, is called Shabbat Hagadol, which is the big Shabbat, like the really big Shabbat. It's like the really big holiday, and I couldn't imagine spending this with anyone other than this panel and in this place. We're here in Memphis at the National Civil Rights Museum, and a place where, in a city where history was made, and obviously we're also here on hallowed ground. It was this day 58 years ago that Dr. King gave his famous mountaintop speech. And as I've been wandering around the museum today and looking at all the faces, I can't help but think of this day 58 years ago and think about, in particular, where we are today. So I want to really start this conversation, which is about the next phase, what lots of people think is the next phase of the civil rights movement. It's been part of the civil rights movement from the very origin of it at its core, but now we talk about it in the language that we've already heard tonight, which is economic justice. So I guess I'd like to start this panel conversation with the question, which is, when Dr. King came to Memphis in 1968 to fight for economic dignity, he knew, even that night, of April 3rd that the work was unfinished, was undone. If he was standing here today, April 3rd, 2026, what economic issue do you think Dr. King might most be leaning into and calling us to rise up to respond to? And I'd love to just go down, Brent, start with you and work our way down, if you don't mind.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good evening. So that's a great question, Seth. I personally would think that access would be one of the things that he would focus on right now, and ownership. Right now, deals are being done. Capital is available, it's out there, but ownership is where the wealth transition actually happens. So I think that he would focus on ownership, equity, and ensuring that individuals have the right space at the table to be able to gain access to the deals that are being able to, be deployed right now.
Thank you. Kelly?
Thank you, Seth. If I could, I just want to take a super brief moment and thank the National Civil Rights Museum for having me. As an Atlanta girl, I was so humbled when I walked past the now infamous hotel room on my way in today. And it was not lost on me that this morning I woke up in the city where the dream was formed. And right now I sit where the dream was made eternal. And I am grateful and I am humbled and I am just truly thankful that you thought me somehow important enough to be part of Dr. King's story and his life and his legacy in this way, so thank you. To the question, I would say that Dr. King would likely be working on the very work that he was working on today, 58 years ago. When I played back the mountaintop speech this morning, what I heard was Dr. King asking America to be America. We are still asking America to be America. When I look at the term economic justice, it's interesting to me because there is no justice without the economics, right? So it's just justice. And so I would posit that if Dr. King were still here today, unfortunately, he'd be working on the same work that he was when he left us.
All right. So for me, I think that 58 years later, as Kelly stated, we're still battling some of the same battles that we were battling 58 years ago. Access to resources and information. As Brent said, it's a lot of deals happening. We're just not privy of them. We're not at the table where those deals are happening. I think that we should be able to have seats at the table. I think we should be able to have access to information. And I feel like with that access to information, we'll do wonders with it. We've always done a lot with a little. So that's why we don't get the access to the information and the deals that are really happening and the stuff that's really taking place in the world, because they know we'll do a lot with that. So I think that it just open some doors and quit being afraid of what we are supposed to be doing.
I think that I'm actually going to go in a little bit of a different direction. So Dr. King was extremely strategic. Everything that they did was very strategic. He always surrounded himself with extremely smart people. So where they march, where he did his speeches, it was all very, very strategic. And I think in the world that we're in today, although we are still fighting for economic equality, economic justice, we are also in a different space in regards to technology and access. So an example of that would be when you think of like blockchain, crypto, the the system was not made for us, and the system is never going to be made for us. Historically, it wasn't made for us. I think because he was always so strategic and always surrounded himself with such smart people, I think he would be at a point now where he understands we have to go in a different direction. Because trying to fight a system that is never going to be for us is almost a lost cause. So when you look at other countries where they're talking about decentralization through blockchain or through different avenues, I think he would now be on that path of trying to figure out what are we going to do. So instead of continuing to fight a system which is not going anywhere, there are other systems that can be built that no longer need your permission. I think he would go that direction because he was always so smart and very strategic.
Such a great point. Thank you, Sheena, for bringing that in, and all of you for bringing, the memory of Dr. King into this conversation, because that's why we're here today. We wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for him, but I appreciate us projecting. But I want to get into a little bit of the now. I want to get into the now. And my business is called Optimistic Labs. I call myself an applied optimist, which means I'm not naive. I mean, y'all, it's 2026. It's hard to be an optimist some days. But we can look around and see there has been a lot of progress since 1968. I mean, Dr. King, it would almost be hard to recognize the country we live in lots of different ways, but in some ways, of the change and the transformation economically for the black community. We've seen major growth in black businesses and black business ownership, home ownership, political leadership, our first black president, corporate leadership. It feels like there's progress. So for a moment, let's stay in an optimistic zone. What progress has been made that should give us strength and courage and optimism at this moment? And Sheena, I want to go back to you because you did point out that we need to be strategic, but what shoulders are we standing on? Like what's looking good right now in terms of economic justice?
I do think there's more money flowing through the culture of blackness. So we have more black billionaires than we've ever had before. I think we're at 19, I think worldwide. I don't think in American. But I think we have more black billionaires than ever before. I think that we are finding allies in different ways now. And I think that contributes to the having more access to money. Again, now we are in a space, a long time ago, you had to have permission to do certain things. Social media kind of takes that away now. I don't need your permission to do certain things. I can go to social media and start my own channel, post what I want to post, and you can't really stop it. And so I think because of the shift in those ways, there are still ways that we can be stopped in certain things, but there's other things now that you just can't stop. We see more. We was talking about before we came up on stage, the amount of young black men I see now who are streaming and making millions of dollars by just literally streaming everyday life. NIL is different. We've always complained about a lot of our black athletes making so much money for the schools and they're never getting anything from it. NIL is now making a lot of young black millionaires at 18, 19, 20. Now, we have a job to do as a culture to now get them to be more financially literate in investing that money so it's more long term. But I do think it's be optimistic. There are avenues that we're seeing that there's more money flowing now to the black community. We have work to do on the back end to finish the journey, but we are seeing some changes being made.
Yeah, thank you. Kelly, I know your work is largely in housing in Atlanta. Maybe can you talk about, because there has been a significant change in home ownership. What do you see that makes you optimistic?
A lot of things, Seth. So for one, I believe that progress is a continuum, right? Like its job is never done. And I'm probably going to age myself, but when I was a little girl, I watched this little channel that had this little show. You probably never even heard of it, but it was called Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. And Mr. Rogers had advice where he said, when you feel scared, when you feel afraid, look for the helpers. And so as we navigate today's society, I look for the helpers, and there are helpers all around. Helpers are people like Sheena who said, we need to open up access to Black banking. Sheena is a helper, right? There are teachers in this room right now who are trying to help increase literacy rates for our babies. Teachers are the helpers. At Atlanta Housing, we right now today have a wait list for vouchers that has more than 20,000 people on it. When you wake up to data that is that sobering, it'd be, to your point, Seth, it'd be really easy to say, we can't do this, right? This cannot be done. I'm not gonna even bother, I'm not gonna get out of bed today. But at Atlanta Housing, we have a CEO who says, we cannot build our way out of this affordability crisis. And so it's gonna become incumbent upon us to no longer just focus on getting people into housing, but now we gotta get them through housing. Because if I can open up this unit, if I can turn this unit and get more people through the program, then I can get more families on the path to self-sufficiency. And so what I would offer, I am optimistic by people who dare to look at the challenge and not see what can't be done, but to be optimists, Seth, and say, I'm gonna approach this differently. And even if I don't complete the race, I'm gonna make progress on the race. And that in and of itself is a win.
Yeah, feeling that wind is available is even a set of opportunity. Brent, we heard some of the stats about what's going on here in Memphis. It makes me optimistic. I was sharing with some folks from the chamber that I want to start a business here. So tell me what's making you optimistic maybe about what you're seeing in the world you're living in here in Memphis.
So Seth completely tricked me. I was getting ready to get up here and complain about how Black people need more. That's what. No, I was just joking. But so I'm
turn everyone into an optimist, man.
Thank you, Seth. So really, I'm optimistic about a bunch of different things. I'll start by saying this. This isn't really related to Memphis, but I'm sure it applies to Memphis. I read an article recently about how Black women are one of the top homeowners in America. So that is something I think we all should be very excited about. But in Memphis in particular, there are several different projects that are in the hopper or having progress that I'm excited about personally. One, Regional One, which is a safety net hospital that is expanding and growing. It's $1 billion project that can add some significant value to the community. The Steric and 100 North Main are projects that are still in the hopper, and we are excited about the mixed-use developments that are coming about. The Sheridan, currently I'm working on developing or on a team that's developing the Sheridan Hotel, and I know y'all seen LeBron hating on Memphis, right? So I've never been a LeBron fan anyway, but shout out Kobe.
Either.
But so just the redevelopment, that's a $200 million project. The Liberty Park, another $150 million project. So there are multi-$100 million projects that are either in the hopper, and there are some other projects, some are controversial, but still add economic value to the city of Memphis. Google, they're putting a database right across the river. So there are a number of different projects that are coming in this space that can add some economic value. I'm the chair of ACE Mentor. Shout out to my guy Ian in the crowd. He's on the board as well. And that's an organization where we are creating pathways for high school students to find careers in architecture, engineering, and construction. So in the future, these multi-million-dollar projects, they will have these young high school students. And if you look at the demographic of Memphis, it's primarily Black with, I think, about 66%. So that offers an opportunity for them to highly participate on those projects as well.
Great, thank you. And look, I don't want to say much about LeBron because he's always listening, but I'm optimistic about the Atlanta Hawks. I just want to say that for some, as Rob knows. Rob, I want to ask you the same question, but I kind of want to get a twofer out of you if I can. I want you as an entrepreneur to share maybe what's making you optimistic, but I'd also love for you to start our conversation about what are some of the barriers that still exist. Like what are some of the, let's be optimistic, but let's not again, be delulu, as the young ones say. Give us the positive, but give us the reality check of what's going on right now.
All right, I give you two for one. So, to be honest, my optimism is that I like that song. So, I'm optimist. The optimism within me comes from us as a community and watching, like I said, 58 years later, how far we've come, how much we've accomplished, and the fact that with all the resources and tools out here that everyone has, what we're doing with it. How many millionaires are coming from social media? How many millionaires are coming from TikTok? How many millionaires are coming from hospitality? And it's something that you can't control. And one thing that I also know that I'm optimistic about, but I'm very proud about, is that no dollar is more valuable than the black dollar on this planet. And no matter how we look and see things, I'm still optimistic that we know our power. And one thing that we also know is that we'll take our dollars from whoever don't appreciate our money. So as long as we keep that in our back pocket and we utilize those dollars, see, we got the power. We just got to know where to put the power at. You know, once we realize that, once we put our money where our mouths are all the time, then we can switch this thing up real quick.
Target learned that lesson pretty
Yeah,
quickly.
they learned it real quick. Everybody learning it. Like, it's a fact. Nobody spends more money than the black dollar. The black dollar, but the problem is the black dollar that I'm not optimistic about is that we don't keep it within us long enough to build the economic foundation that we need to sustain and have a voice in the world. We give our power away too easily. We need to hold on to that. I know we say, I'm in hospitality. I've been in hospitality 20 years. I own restaurants, I own bars, I own clubs. I understand. Trust me. I know you guys will go to these restaurants and tell them, I ain't never coming here no more. Yeah, I don't know the service. But that's the grace that we must hold. We must keep grace. You know, God gives us grace all the time. You know, he gives us grace. And one thing that I want to be optimistic about is us having grace for one another. That's how we keep the power. No matter how mad we get at one another, no matter how much we dislike or just communicate, but keep our power, have grace. Because if we can keep grace and say, you know, I had a bad experience there, but I'm going to go back. I'm going to keep giving them my dollars.
Yeah.
We'll suck the economy back in our favor. We'll have control. And so the latter part of your question was, what barriers still exist?
Yeah.
Whew. A, B, Z. So many barriers. So many barriers that still exist. I went through
Give me the biggest one. Give me the biggest one.
The biggest one for me is, and this might be, I think sometimes I look at segregation as a tool, as something that was helpful and also hurtful to the community. Because we had our own banks, we had our own stores, we had our own pharmacies. I live in Nashville, Tennessee right now. And Nashville, Tennessee, Jefferson Street was one of the most economical, powerful streets. And they ran highways through that street. And after they ran highways through that street, they put segregation through that community. And that just destroyed our businesses. And for me as a business owner, one thing I'm very scared about is the more we grow as businesses, the more rules that will come in place to try to destroy our businesses, to try to find out that they're going to continue to put roadblocks. And it's this, what you said, Sheena, the system wasn't meant for us. I deal with it right now. I'm sure you guys don't know, but I have a business on Buchanan Street. On 4th of July, my business burned down. Firecrackers, they say. So fast forward a month later, they put an overlay in place that basically wouldn't allow my business to reopen while it burned. And it's like, that's because they wanted the neighborhood. They want that area. And it's like, it reminded me, I thought about like, it's the same thing that happened in Oklahoma. So I feel like this stuff will continue to happen as long as we grow, but as long as we stay together, we keep our power.
Thank you. That's real truth. I think you raised a point, and Sheena, I want to go back to you and ask you this question as well about reality, because we've spoken a little bit today, you and I personally, about capital and access to capital. Rob just talked about that a little bit, keeping the money in the community, but also drawing new money in to Black-owned businesses and entrepreneurs. Give us a reality check on the barriers that exist around capital.
So I'll speak from as an entrepreneur. I do tech companies, so a lot of the money that I'm going after is more venture capital dollars, angel investments. There are other ways of raising money. There's bank loans, there's debt capital. Also at the foundation, one of the biggest barriers for us, we did speak about this earlier, is the fact that as Black entrepreneurs or trying to start a business or of any sort, when I look at our white male counterparts, it's generational wealth. We don't have that in the Black community. So when I have a white counterpart, the likelihood that they can go to their mom's boss, the friend of the family, and say, I have this idea for a business, or I need some seed capital. Can you loan me, invest $100,000, $50,000? The likelihood of that happening is way higher than someone who looks like me or like us in this room to go to somebody in our family, to go to our dad's boss, our dad's friend, somebody in the neighborhood and says, I have an idea for a business. Can you loan me $100,000? We deal with Black tax in our community. So the likelihood is we're going to get asked for money versus us being able to ask somebody else for money. The second thing I would say is a Black female, we get less than 1% of VC dollars. Less than 1%. So we don't even get a whole one. We're less than 1%. So when you see a lot of these big tech companies, and it's like the AI companies, and they're becoming unicorns, and they're billion-dollar companies, to become those types of companies, you have to have capital infused into your company. Well, the problem is you're not infusing my company with capital. The chances of me building a multi-million, a multi-billion-dollar company greatly decreases. There is not one company out here that is a multi-million, billion-dollar company that didn't get capital of some sort. And so when you look at the fact that we don't get capital, problem. Rob spoke to it when he said we don't do a good job of keeping the Black dollar in the Black community long enough. It kind of just goes back to the root of that, though. If I start a business, and Black women have started business at a higher rate than anyone else right now. But guess what? But unfortunately, the other side of that, we close our business at a higher rate than anyone else. And you know why? Because we don't get the funding to sustain it. So while I would love to keep my Black dollar in the Black community, I can't go and support Kelly business because she shut it down, not because she's not a great operator, not because she doesn't have a great business. She couldn't get the capital because the bank said, oh, you don't meet X to get this loan. She couldn't get the VC dollar. So now her business is shut down. So yeah, I went and spent it at place A. I wanted to spend with Kelly. It's not Kelly's fault because she couldn't get the funding. She probably had everything right, but the bank just said, for some reason you don't meet our qualifications. And so we still have some barriers and some issues that we're still fighting. And honestly, I don't know the answer to the problem.
Yeah, I'm kind of feeling, look, you're pointing out, and Brett, I see you leaning in. You have a thought, if you have a thought, but one of the things I learned at Forbes, when I was at Forbes and we were building out Forbes BLK, is at the end of the day, there are systems. There are systems for capital allocation. There are systems for investment. And when you look around, you don't necessarily see Black capital allocators all the time. You talked about intergenerational wealth, but we're also talking about VCs, investors, and then the system just supplies itself sometimes.
Well, we've tried it. We just got sued. Fearless Fund got sued just last year. So it's not like we haven't tried.
That's right.
It says we literally have a company, shout out to Arian Simone, love Arian, who said, I am going to take time to purposely, intentionally make sure Black women are funded only to have a white-led guy come in and says, that's discriminatory because you are only funding black women. So it's not like there haven't been, shout out to Jewel, Collab Capital. There are groups who have intentionally tried and want to fund because they understand the barriers. But again, Arian got sued for trying to do the exact same thing.
So sometimes we call that people, and sometimes we call it the system. We call it like the capital S system. I want to go back to, Brent, maybe you were leaning in a little bit. What are the systems right now that are limiting economic justice? What are the, are there systemic barriers right now? And then Kelly, I want to come to talk to you, revisit what you said about housing as well. What are the systemic barriers that you're seeing?
One thing I would say, I really want to reiterate access and procurement. So corporate and government procurement are some of the most, they're the two biggest ways to build black wealth. If you look at government contracting and corporate contracting, a number of organizations build wealth through those opportunities. So I would say just access. Access to those. And one thing that I continue to tell my daughter really on a daily basis, and I want you to look at your neighbor and say this, but exposure leads to expansion. Exposure leads to expansion. Without that exposure to those venture capitalists and exposure to the right individuals, being at the table like Rob said, and being able to get access to those opportunities, those barriers are heightened when you're just not in the system. Like, you just need to be in the system.
I used to say all the time, I think y'all heard me say this earlier today when I was talking about my experience at Forbes, that you can't serve who you can't see. And if people aren't at those tables, and if people aren't in those rooms, you don't even recognize the business opportunity. I mean, you know, I tell some of my friends that black businesses are the alpha. Like, if you're chasing alpha, go chase black businesses, but they don't see it because they're not in the rooms where they can see it, and there's not people in those rooms that can tell them that truth and let them see it. So, Kelly, I'm curious if there's a similar, you mentioned earlier the backlog on housing vouchers, and certainly we read in the news, and you know, in this upcoming election, housing is an enormous issue. What are some of the systemic barriers that are limiting economic justice around housing in the black community? And we only have a few minutes, not all night. Well, yeah.
Yeah, we could do a whole panel on that by itself. You know, Dr. King talked about this inextricable link, right? This garment that we are all tied in towards a single destiny. And I look at social issues the same way. They are inextricably linked. So when you ask me, how can I move a family from subsidy to self-sufficiency, I can't have that conversation with you unless you are also open to talking about livable wages, right? I can't have a living wages conversation with you if you are not open to talking to me about education, skills, training, right? I can't have an education conversation with you if we cannot have a conversation about hunger and food insecurity, because it is impossible to out-teach hunger in a classroom. And I can't have a hunger conversation with you if you're not willing to have a public safety conversation, because when we look at what drives our public safety numbers, oftentimes it's need. And so we want to have conversations and we want to silo out these problems, but we don't want to look at, again, that inextricable link, that garment of mutuality that all has us tied towards a single destiny. And so I think if we all come together, I'm a housing person. We in Atlanta are trying to be more intentional about sitting down with the transit person, sitting down with the education person, because it's not a housing issue, it's just a people issue.
Amen. Thank you. I want to sit with that, because you just walked us through the entire chain of economic justice, and it starts with what you said was honesty. We just have to have an honest conversation. Rob, I want to go back to you for a moment about an honest conversation about ownership. owning a business is an economic engine. Owning a business is economic engine. I guess in this moment, as you look as a business leader, came from Nashville, and you're here in Memphis, what does owning a business mean, and what does it mean to what do we need to do to help other people create that ownership culture? What is the lever that you think we need to pull or push to help create a greater sense of ownership that fosters economic justice?
So I've been listening to everybody. I made a lot of points that just sat with me. And to answer your question about ownership, I think ownership stems from what we was told was the American dream. You know, the American dream was to really, I said this earlier on the podcast, for me, the American dream, we all drive through neighborhoods and see big houses and like, I want that house. Who live there? I want that house. I want that house. I just want a big house. I'm tired of this small rats and roaches, and I don't want that. We want that. So the American dream is to get that. So, and to get that, what do we do to get that? I don't think it's just strictly ownership, because everybody can't be business owners, but everybody should have a shot at the American success story. Let's not call it a dream. American reality. Let's take it out the dream. Let's make it reality. And I think that the way the system is played, which Cena said, you know, they had a fund for them and they changed it up. They switched it up, you know. And then what Brent said, the minority contracts, well, they only give you 10% minority. Why there's a problem when you have to create a certain amount just to give to someone just because of their skin color. What you're already addressing the problem. You're saying, hey, we know y'all gonna keep all this money, but just give 10% to them. And then you said it's you got to get at the table. But if it's only 10% of people in the room and you happy to get in the room, now we're 400 years of just beating our mentality down. So once I get in the room, I'm thinking in my head, I got to stay in the room because it's only 10% of us that's able to even get here. So I may not go out and tell everybody for fear they may take my 10%. And now we just subbing each other out. You in the game, all right, you get out, because they only want 10% of us. So it's only if it's 10 people at the table, only one person of minority can sit at that table. So I think it's not strictly ownership, because when I started throwing events. That's how I got into it. Because I used to I threw parties, and I realized that I couldn't get venues in Nashville because it was two problems. I was a black man, young black man. They was like, I'm not renting my venue to you. And then I went to Tennessee State University. Oh, you go to Tennessee State University, we not do this. So I tried to beat the game. They told me, go find a white man. They go to Vanderbilt. So that's what I did. I found a white dude to go to Vanderbilt. He booked my stuff. And then when all black people came, they was like, what the heck? You tricked us. Yeah, I told you.
Yeah.
But I thought that was ownership, because now I own the parties. But then I realized it's another level. So now I wanted to own establishments. So when I own the establishments, it's like now I have the restaurants. Now I have the venues. Now I own it. Now I don't need your venue. I got my own.
That's right.
And then after I got my own, I realized, hey, well, I just own the business. It's another level. They want you, because when you own the business, guess what they do then? They kick you out their business. They don't lease to you. And then it's like, oh, now you got to own the property. You got to own the dirt. And what I learned, and look, when they put barriers against you, they'll put the barriers against you. But you got to have one faith in one person, because we all answer to one person. And our God don't care about color. So when my business burned down, this is a real testament. My business burned down. I said, I'm not going back to renting to these people again.
Yeah,
I'm going to own my dirt. And when I bought my dirt, they put the overlay in to try to stop it.
Well, so this is, first of all,
But I'm still opening up.
keep preaching, brother.
But God.
You know, there's someone recently reminded me that God speaks through the mouths of others. And, you know, I think you're speaking real truth, and you're reminding us how all this works together. I've got a few questions that are coming in from the interwebs, and the folks out there and people in this room are being real on my text. So I want to ask some hard questions, but good questions. And I want to piggyback off of what you just said, Rob. Maybe go to some of the other panelists. The late Reverend Dr. James Lawson used the term plantation capitalism. Plantation. So let's have a real moment to talk about this. Do we still live in a society, as much as we hold ourselves out to be somewhere different of a mindset or an era of plantation capitalism? Brent, what are you thinking? You're pondering, man. I can see the gaze in your eyes.
So, I mean, I think that that's an interesting concept. I can't say that I fully all the way understand plantation capitalism, but the first thing that popped into my mind was I'm big into music and entertainment, but culture vultures or like basketball.
Distorting value.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I feel like, I mean, that's why I thought about entertainment and sports and music. So they talk about the 360 deal, or they talk about not allowing certain players to become owners of NBA teams. So I think that it does still happen. I'm interested, honestly, to hear what my counterparts have to say. But I would say, yeah, but I'm like, Sheena, Rob, what do y'all think?
Plantation capitalism. So break that down to me. It's like the people that own the plantation capitalizing off us.
Yeah, I think it's extracting value from labor in an unjust and extortive, extracting way.
I'll easily break that down to you. So, culture, clothes, we do it, we wear it, they put their stamp on it, they make money off of it. Music, no shade to Eminem, no shade to other white rappers. They came into the culture and easily became quoted some of the biggest rap superstars of our culture. But when Beyonce goes into their culture, no, you can't do
Backs
that.
up. Yeah, backs
You
up.
can't do that. And then, you know, you can go into sports. You have athletes that are doing phenomenal, and they finally say, I'm more than a basketball. I'm not going to shut up and dribble. I don't want to play for them.
Yeah.
Well, you're considered a bad guy. We're not. We're gonna lower your value, or you can't be a. This happened in 2003. True story. Eli Manning did not want to play for the San Diego Chargers. Some people might remember now, I'm a sports fan. Eli didn't want to play for the San Diego Chargers. His daddy is Archie Manning, and he was proud of his son. Guess what? The same thing happened in 2025. Deion Sanders had a son he was proud of. And he said, I want my son to be great, because we instilled one thing that we didn't have growing up is strong black men. A lot of us didn't have that. They made music songs about your daddy, your mama's on crack rock, and your daddy not in your life. So that's what we grew up in the 80s and 90s knowing. And you have a father that is sitting there saying, I love my son. I'm going to do the best for my son. And guess what the system did to their son? They put him in the 5th round. They blackballed him, didn't give him an opportunity just because his dad was believed in him. And then when we was walking in the museum, I seen Arkansas, the kids desegregation. And guess who in the picture? Anybody know? Jerry Jones.
Oh, yeah, you pointed that out.
And it's like you have to look at plantation capitalism, as we say, they win off our culture. in Nashville, I started doing bottomless brunch. And because I'm like, hey, let's do bottomless brunch. Guess what they do? Hey, this works. We're going to do it for our audience because they like it. Anything that we make it first, they make the money.
So I want to ask, thank you, y'all. And again, the part of the real problems require real conversations, and real conversations require real talk. So I appreciate the directness of this, and we got a few more questions where people want to get into some real talk. So Sheena, you're hiding. I can't see you all the time down there, but I see your smile now. But I got a question. I'm going to start with you on this. I've actually written a bunch about this in Forbes, so it's a topic that I think about a lot. But there's a few questions about what about reparations and reparative justice, and what does reparation? So there is a conversation that's ongoing about. It recently was in the UN. Again, what does reparations look like? When you think about that concept and that phrase in this moment, what role should reparative justice and reparations mean for economic justice in the Black community?
I don't think we'll ever get it, number one. So it's great to have the conversation. I just don't think it's realistic. I don't at all. I think the concept of it is nice. I think the deserving of it is nice. We definitely never got our 40 acres, that's for sure. They gave it to us and took it right back, which historically they have done a lot of. But do I think we will get it? No. I think that the biggest thing that we have to do as Black culture is we are going to have to accept as a whole, number one, that it's not coming. Two, we're going to have to, number one, we are so forgiving. And by just who we are, we're not violent people. We're very forgiving. We invite you to the cookout. And there's nothing wrong with that. But when it comes to economics of it, we also have to take our emotions out of a lot of this. And rightfully so that we are emotional about a lot of it. We have every right to be emotional and feel the way that we feel about a lot of stuff. However, we live in a capitalistic country. And the more emotion we put in it, the more advantage they take of it. So we can get angry about being killed by police officers, as we should. We should be angry because Black women don't get funding, as we should. But until we learn to play the game and remove emotions and learn that we are in a capitalistic country and it is not going to change, we are never going to be able to actually get in the game. We have to play the game with them. Now, are we behind the game 400 years? Absolutely. Have they given and taken away? Absolutely. But again, we have to learn that we are in a capitalistic country and it is not going to change.
Thank you. Sheena, thank you. All right, well, I want to, before we wrap up, because we did get real, I want to put us into the future. I want to put our future-looking glasses on for a moment. Let's assume we're all back here in 10 years. I've bought the sweatshirt that Rob's wearing, so we're matchy-matchy up here 10 years from now. But what do we see in the future? And what do we see for economic justice in the Black community? What do we see in Memphis? What do we see for the movement? However you want to respond, and just a brief 1-minute answer, a few moments of an answer. Just think, where are we 10 years from now, and what are we seeing? And Kelly, if I can start with you. I'm sorry.
I think we see what we have the courage to pursue. I love that we center Dr. King's dream, because a dream does not have to exist in reality. That's what makes it a dream, right? And so it's what happens when we wake up. Do we chase that dream, or do we just say, oh, that was nice, but it's not possible? My grandmother could not have imagined that her daughter would one day be the communications executive for one of the largest corporations on the planet. She could not have dreamt that back then. But when I came through the turnstile, baby, that badge said clear. See what I'm saying? So we will see what we have the courage to chase. Right now in Atlanta, our mayor has said that the tale of two cities in Atlanta will end. There is a line that divides the north and the south, and there is a life expectancy gap that we should be ashamed of. Our mayor has said, I have the courage to chase that. And so I believe that when we come back here in 10 years, the program is called NRI, Neighborhood Reinvestment Initiative. Our communities will be reinvested in. I will trade you reparations if you will just stop with the repossessions, right? We will build, stop taking it away. But we can have the courage to pursue that. And so I look forward to coming back in 10 years and celebrating our part of the race, our part of the relay, because it can be done. They didn't think that we would be sitting here today, and we are. And our grandkids will sit somewhere tomorrow where we could not envision today.
Thank you. Amen. Rob, in a few words, what do you see 10 years from now?
10 years from now, I think that to piggyback off first of what Sheena said, nobody's coming to save us. Nobody's coming to save us. We can first, let's get that through our minds that nobody's coming to save us. Secondly, I feel like in 10 years, if everybody have a vision and fight for that vision and that purpose with everything that you have and give everything over to that one God, I believe that everything's going to be okay, because we're fighting worldly issues with someone that is bigger than worldly issues. It's kind of like, just give it to God. Like, I hate to get to that, but every problem that I've ever had, only one person was able to solve them. And, you know, we're going to continue to have problems. But when I lost all my faith, that's when I lost some of my business. That's when I lost the most amount of money. When I kept my faith and I kept my purpose and I didn't get distracted by all the bills and the laws that they were putting on and the different things that were happening in the community, I think that's when I became as successful as I am. So I believe in 10 years, I just pray that we can keep faith, keep our purpose, keep our vision, stay focused on that, and everything else will play into exactly how it is. We can't control what we can't control. Everything was built before us. If we just stay focused, we'll be fine. Trust me.
Amen. Sheena, 10 years in a few words, what do you see?
10 years from now, I think that we have figured out that we have been fighting the system. We have been fighting systematic issues, and we are learning that the problem is the system, but the bigger problem is the infrastructure. And so I think in 10 years from now, because we figured that out, we will take more time to focus on the infrastructure, which is your foundation. And so we will come back stronger because we have a stronger foundation.
Amazing. Thank you. Brett, what's been happening 10 years into the future in Memphis in the meantime? What's been happening?
So in 10 years, I'll start by saying this. 2% of architects are black. 4% of professional engineers are black. In 10 years, the students that we're mentoring with ACE Mentor will change that dynamic. I really believe that we can double, triple that percentage. I really believe that practice builds confidence and creativity. And so as long as we keep inspiring these young minds, we'll be able to see more owners, more people like Rob, more people like Sheena, more people like me, myself. I'm an executive of an engineering firm. I want to see more intentionality behind black leaders and black minds being in different areas of knowledge workers.
Amazing. Well, look, y'all, first I want to say just a thank you to all of you. If we could get a big round of applause for this panel. There was a lot of truth. There was a lot of truth talking tonight. There was a lot of truth talking all the way across the stage. And you know, in 1968, the dream didn't die. But it did mark a change in the movement from a political movement to the beginning and the nurturing of an economic rights movement. And that has changed. We've talked about it tonight. Economic justice is about business ownership. It's about capital access. It's about removing barriers, creating investments. It's about getting the right people in the right rooms, making the right decisions, putting the dollars back into the right communities. And we heard all of that from all of you. And I think that as we look forward, you gave us all a lot of inspiration and motivation. And look, y'all, I don't know, I haven't been to the mountaintop, but I've been to Memphis tonight, and I learned a lot. So thank you all. I really appreciate you. I'm looking forward to coming back and having this conversation in 10 years, even sooner, and having all that belief be true. So with that, I want to thank you all, and I want to invite Jason Anderson back up to the stage. Where is Jason? There he is.
All right, we know you all are ready to eat and have some adult beverages, so we're going to be pretty quick. First of all, we just want to say thank you to this amazing panel, to this amazing moderator. Please give them a hand. Yeah, y'all can stand up like her. Yeah, stand and give them a hand. Yeah. That's y'all biggest supporter right there. I don't know who this young lady is. So Justin, you go ahead.
Thank you guys so much for all that you've done and that you will do. Again, thank you guys so much for all that you've done and that you will do. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate this. I would like to say that this was really a very important conversation, right? But there were solutions offered as well. We don't want this to be just a one-time program. This is not what this is. This is about changing the narrative. This is about moving forward. This is about working together. This is an example of working together. So we can't do this work alone, right? And, you know, I thought about Jason, and I thought about Justin, and I thought, you know, Dr. King, he has some unfinished business. Some unfinished business 58 years ago. What's important about today, 58 years ago today when we started this program, he was given his mountaintop speech. So to be able to have this conversation about economic justice, when he came to Memphis to talk about dignity, to talk about economic injustice, to make sure that people are paid well, right? So having this conversation today, right before April 4th, the day that he was assassinated, and to do it with these young people. We're talking about passing the baton, doing it with the young people. You are to carry it forth. We all have the opportunity to carry it forth. So I'm not gonna get on that soapbox. We already had that, you know, conversation, but I want you to please scan the QR code and just do the survey for us. Let us know that we are doing the work that we should be doing here at the museum. Let us know what you are interested in. Lydia, stand up one more time for me. Lydia is on the Office of Engagement team. She's done an incredible job. But not just Lydia, the team here at the National Civil Rights Museum. Wow. We come together, we work together. We are a small, small team, but we push out grand work. And I want everybody to know that I appreciate all of our team members. We're gonna move forward into the lobby, and we wanna continue the conversation. So please, don't, unless you have to, don't go home. Let's have a conversation, let's get to know each other, and let's talk to the panelists and the moderator. Thank you so much. But talk to them, get some ideas, share your ideas. Thank you so much for being here with us. Yes,